morning, and thank you for joining us today. Our program is broken up into 3 sections. We'll take 1 or 2 questions after each section. If you could, before you ask your question, wait until somebody can bring you a mic so that we can have it be part of the audio program that we produce. So, DOJ enforcement actions under the Foreign Corrupt Practices Act have grown 5-fold since 2004 as the government cracks down on companies that bribe foreign officials. Why the surge? In part because companies are self-reporting problems to the government as they step up their own enforcement mechanisms. How much is your company at risk? What are the risks of self-reporting?
Hi, I want to present a nuts and bolts hypothetical and see what your reaction would be to it, if that's all right. Let's say that you're going to do business in a region that's fairly known to have a lot of corruption, not necessarily in one of the hot fields, energy and so forth, but one where there's a lot of corruption that is just part of the culture. And there are only a handful of resellers who work in that region, and the only way to do business in the region is working through resellers. And so when you go to select your partner, you talk to different people and you educate your staff, and they go out and ask the right questions, and every reseller accuses all the others of being corrupt. So you pick the one that you think is probably the best. You have the Commerce Department do an investigation to make sure you get a clean, because they have this service that will do that for you, or some other investigator. You get a clean bill on this one company, and you start doing business with them. A couple of years later, you hear through your network that another company has been investigating them and has found that they have, with this other company's products, they've got this elaborate scheme, and they have offshore bank account, and they're defrauding this person and that person. They're cheating the company, and they're probably also bribing officials as part of this scheme. So if you were in this situation, I want to present one possibility of what might be done and see whether what your reaction is to that, or if you have other suggestions. Would it be a reasonable response to take on the cost of requiring that reseller to give you documentation for every sale that they made all the way through, to make sure that for your sales, there was a clean chain showing that they had actually sold what they said they were selling at the prices they said they were, and so forth, but then continue to do business with that reseller? Wow.
Well, in answer to the data question, the transparency, in the tech world, that's fairly common to ask for information right through to the ultimate end customer as to whether or not you want to do business with that person. You have to sleep at night worrying about the DOJ coming to visit you now that you have that knowledge. So what are you going to do about that reseller? I think you're between a rock and a hard place. If that's the only reseller, there's only 3 resellers in the country. I suspect I know the region you're talking about.
I think part of what we've talked about are sort of, it's 2 different things, right? There's a, look, I'm a reasonable person, I did a reasonable approach, and I spent a reasonable amount of money doing compliance, and I thought I chose the right person. Turns out maybe I didn't, but I couldn't have uncovered it doing anything differently because I was reasonable in my approach. And I think that's fine. I think the difficulty arises, and it isn't from you can hire, you can do it yourself, you can do it in-house. The difficulty comes up when the department finds out about it, right? And so in your situation, if hypothetical situation, no names. So in your hypothetical situation, who knows if that other company who has found whatever this problem is with the reseller has decided, well, we're going to go disclose that to the department, right? And then the department says, well, does this reseller do any other work with any other U.S. companies? Why don't we find out? Let's issue some grand jury subpoenas. So, I think there's a tension between trying to minimize costs at the outset to make the right decision at the outset, and then the exponential costs that come up when the department comes in and says, well, what did you do? So I think, in your situation, whether you keep working with them might be a factor that they would look at since there is a red flag that's been raised. But I think, it sounds like your approach was a practical, reasonable approach. Then you go back in and kick the tires afterward, do a little hindsight checking. I think that's fine.